Hey, Ross McLean here. Something a little different for you. I'm former law enforcement, as you know, did close protection for billionaires, and I do a lot of media hits. And I just wanted to share with you this radio interview I do with, I'm on about every week with Marc Patrone out at Saga 960, talking about different issues. And I love doing Marc's show because he does not censor the talk. There isn't anything that you can't say on there if there's a view that you want to express. So I get a chance to really get the truth out and say some things. And I was dropping some truth bombs with Marc about crime and what's happening for citizens around North America, where police chiefs and mayors and politicians are putting citizens under the gun, literally. So listen to this one. We're going to talk about crime and protecting your home and about that horrific stabbing of that Ukrainian girl down in the Carolinas there. That was just horrific. I'm going to talk a bit about that. It's a concern for everybody who's got a woman in their life that they love, and for every woman who's listening to this. So without further ado, here's my interview with Marc Patrone. Please like, subscribe, follow if you like the information on my channel.
At my signal, unleash hell.
It's about how much you can take and keep moving forward. That's
Good morning. Happy Monday. You're listening to News Talk Saga 960, the September the 8th edition of the Marc Patrone Show. Welcome, friends. Ross McLean joining us from the GTA. He's a security expert, former police officer. Welcome to the show once again, Ross.
Well, good to be with you and good to share some of my experiences in dealing with, this violent crime that we've got out, violent, and I guess we could call it American crime, right? Because Canada used to be so different. But we've got all this violent South American rights to be able to defend yourself or, carry a weapon or protect yourself in your home. So these are very challenging times, and I think Canadians are going to have to toughen up and speak up, Mark.
Absolutely. Now, you wanted to talk a little bit about this camera issue. I guess this man in Hamilton, and I think Tony G is going to be joining us a little later on to talk about it as well. I guess he's being told that he has to get rid of some of the cameras on his property that presumably he's using for surveillance of possible criminals. I mean, so here it is, a guy essentially trying to defend his home, being told by the government, yeah, you can't do that. Pull those cameras down. It's ridiculous. What do you think?
I think that these governments today are out to kill you. They're out to help get you killed. They're working against people being able to live their lives in peace and security. So here's a guy down in Hamilton, a tough part of Hamilton, by the way. And Hamilton is a pretty tough town. For years I used to get called up to do media hits about murders, shootings, and all kinds of the stuff that's going on in Hamilton. It's a tough town. So this guy has a house. Nice house on a corner lot, but it's in a tough part of town. And he's got cameras. Guess what? Looking at his front door, looking at his corner lot. He's got a sidewalk that goes right around his lot. And now he gets a notice from the city bylaw people that says you can't have cameras that look out past the edge of your property. It's violating people's rights, and there's a bylaw against anti-fortification of your home. And I'm first reading this, I'm going, this can't be true. Like, this is like one of those Onion articles or something, Mark. But no, it's true. They got a whole big bylaw. I'll post it on my X account after this interview. That lists out all the things that you're not allowed to do to protect your house. And Mark, I'm going to tell you something. I would invite everybody that's listening to this program to look at the bylaw. I'll post it and do everything that's on that list that they tell you not to do. Because most of it is what I would advise you to do if you hired me to do your personal protection. I'd advise you to put cameras on your property. I'd advise you to strengthen the windows that are easy to be broken into. I'd advise you to put on a stronger door. I'd advise you to put on motion detection lights that if someone walks on your property, it gives a signal. All of that. But in Hamilton, they're going to put you in the poorhouse with bylaw fines if you do that sort of thing, Mark. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, does this guy have any alternatives? Is there a way he can get around it by positioning the cameras in such a way as to not go beyond his property, if you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I say no, absolutely not. There's no way you do that. That's the whole purpose of cameras, is to watch the street. In fact, this guy has neighbors that come up to say that they love him because they know when they're walking down the street, he and other people have cameras that are looking. Now, if you're a bad guy and you want to go mug someone or go rape somebody's daughter or go do some horrific crime, are you going to do it on a street that's got lots of cameras on it with a strong, what we used to call neighborhood watch? What the police used to tell you they want you to do, they wanted you to go out and do neighborhood patrols in the past, Mark, right? So having the cameras out on the streets is the most important thing you can do. Look, I used to protect probably the most secure building in Canada, the most secure. And when the first thing I did when I took over security for it, I turned all the cameras that were looking at the property we were protecting, and I turned them out towards the street, because that's where the problems come. So it's absolutely backwards. And our former privacy commissioner, and Mark, you know the joke of when they label stuff, freedom of information and privacy commissioners, they do the actual opposite of what they're supposed to be doing. She actually came out and gave a comment, Ann Kevorkian, I think is her name, or Kavukian, saying something about, oh, you can't be videoing people in public. They have a right to privacy. Now, she's the privacy commissioner, and she doesn't know that there is no right to privacy when you're out on the public streets. She's actually misleading people. She's actually misleading people about it. You're absolutely entitled to do it. And I hope that some, maybe Ezra and the Democracy Fund will pick this one up and take it to the Supreme Court that says that you cannot protect yourself on your property. I just think that's irresponsible, Mark.
We got to talk a little bit about this horrific murder of this young lady, 23-year-old Ukrainian refugee. And all she was doing, Ross, is sitting there, scrolling on her phone, did not see this cowardly attack from behind her, this individual whom she, I guess, felt had no thoughts about one way or another. When she sat down in her seat, this is on a train in Charlotte, North Carolina. Next thing you know, this guy pulls out a knife, like a pocket knife, and you can see him pulling the blade out. He attacks her, stabs her 3 times, murders this woman. I mean, wow. And the media, to its disgrace, eternal disgrace, has not covered it, has not touched it, probably because it doesn't push the agenda that they are pushing. This racist agenda of theirs, that it's only white people who are the racists, and they're the ones, responsible for all the ills of society, including violence. And so that's probably why they didn't cover it. It makes sense to me in terms of their reasoning, but it's no excuse. And yet here we have this person. There's going to be a lot of people thinking next time they get on a train, is some psychopath going to stab me, attack me while I'm just going about my business? What do you think?
I think they're right to think that. Look, once again, I'm going to go back to sort of the broad theme because it's layered on top of this. This is about governments trying to kill their citizens. Is that over the top? Look, I've got one video up on my channel now, on my YouTube channel, McLean Chronicles, about Trump and crime, and it's called basically Do the Right Thing. What do you do when you've got a lot of crime in your city, Mark? You bring out the cops. What do? You put them on overtime. You bring out the cops to the crime place. Someone volunteers to send in more cops and lend you more police. You take them, you put them in, and you eradicate the crime. But you look at cities like Chicago, they actually have a governor and a mayor there working to protect the criminals and stop people from coming in and stopping the crime, just like the crime that happened to this young woman. And let me say something very personal. I've done lots of training with women before on personal security, and there isn't a woman that's listening to this, or probably a dad or a brother, that hasn't had the situational awareness talk with the women in their lives. And women are always told, you hear the police say it, oh, you have to be situationally aware, you have to be aware, but they don't really define what that is. Well, this young woman, and it looks like, you see some of the pictures of this girl, Mark, she's a beautiful woman, right? Beautiful woman. But she did all the stuff. She dressed herself down. She hid her hair. She put on a baseball cap. She wore a loose-fitting kind of pizza work shirt sort of thing. She did everything she could to not stand out, trying to do all the right things. She sits down and she comes across this guy who's career criminal, 14 convictions, Likely, some of the discussion is he suffers from schizophrenia potentially, which I don't really care about for the sake of protecting yourself. Mentally ill people that aren't dealt with by the governments are some of the scariest people to deal with. But one other piece of advice I would give to anybody is don't sit with your back to anybody. Always sit with your back against a wall where you can see a place. We used to call that in my line of work, take the cop seat.
On a GO train, like, you get on the GO train and, there's all sorts of seats that face forward, right? That
well, what you do in that case, if you're concerned, you look to take a seat. You look at the person who's in behind. Make eye contact with them. Smile. Maybe say hello. See if they say something back to you and they look like reasonable people. Establish that they're friendly, but keep your wits about you. Don't have your headphones in and be absorbed in something. You have to be prepared for it, unfortunately, Mark.
Yeah,
that's the way you have to do it.
You got to have your head on a swivel now, on the train, on a bus.
Mark, when I put a VIP or one of the people I was doing close protection with, we're in a crowd, guess who I put in all the seats around where my client is going to be sitting? And I tell the host to make sure that happens beforehand. I put people there that are known to me or known to them who are not going to be a threat. I just don't allow anybody to sit next to my client or sit within a couple of rows of my client, sort of thing. But we're getting to the point now that this is where Canadians and people have to be. You're going to have to protect yourself because, as Chief Sweeney said, you're supposed to comply. He sort of walked that back, right? But the criminals now recognize that the criminal code and the courts are merely a suggestion. They're not a rule of law, and there's no fear in getting past them. Shootings going on everywhere, stabbings going on everywhere. And look, the police chief is, I'm just getting my soapbox here for a second, Mark. He can stand up and say, I'm sick of seeing people shot and murdered in their homes in my division, in my police department that I look after. And if you do criminal acts here, we're going to find you, we're going to get you, we're going to go to courts, and I'm going to yell at the mayor and I'm going to yell at the premier to put you people in jail who are criminals. But they don't choose to say that, do they? They choose to say, follow the law. We're just doing the rules here. I know cops who have quit the job because of having leadership like that, because they can't bring themselves to put on the uniform and not do the real job, Mark.
Crazy. And now we have Trump now saying, get ready for Operation Patriot 2.0 as ICE launches an initiative in Massachusetts, I guess Boston, as well as Chicago. I mean, I've seen some videos posted by alleged gangbangers. People say, don't bring the National Guard here to Chicago because we will fight back. We're not just going to take it. And so they believe that they own the streets in the south side of Chicago, that these people, it's a place that police do not go. And so here he is warning the president of the United States, saying, don't even come here. You better stay away or else. So what does that tell you about who they think owns the streets? Certainly isn't, the territory of the United States. It's the territory of these reputed gangs, of which, according to this one poster, there are 100,000 of these 100,000 gangs, not 100,000 gang members, gangs in Chicago ruling the streets. I mean, this is going to be an interesting phenomenon to watch because I know that Trump is not going to take no for an answer. He's going to send the National Guard there to bring the streets under control. That's going to be something to watch, isn't it, Ross?
It will be, and he is going to do the right thing, and he is not going to back off. Like I said, Mark, you know what? And I encourage people to watch the video that I did on that. Do the right thing. It's not hard. Your listeners all know what it is. Your listeners know what it is to do if they were to be the judge sitting on that guy who stabbed that girl to death, but had let him out 14 times. They wouldn't let him back out again. Your listeners would know what happening if people were being mugged, raped, shot, and broken into, home invasions on their streets, that they'd want the police there for doing stuff. It's just do the right thing. It's gotten so funny. I was listening to somebody today from California, and the Bloods and the Crips, right? The two gangs that hate each other that have ruled California for so long, they actually got together to have a meeting with the mayor down there and with the police departments to complain about the Mexican gangs that were coming in. They said, we can't deal with these Mexican gangs. So when your gangsters can't deal with your gangsters, what's the average citizen supposed to do who wants to live their life? As I recall, we're supposed to have a charter of rights that allows us to live our life with peace and security of the person.
Yeah. I remember hearing a story not
Encourage
that
people
long
to
ago.
stand up.
I heard a story not long ago about
Yep.
the mafia in New York complaining about some of these people. It's getting so bad that even the criminals are leaving New York. It's, it's absolute madness. And yet that's the state we're in. I mean, where it's going to go, I don't know. But I don't think people trust the police anymore. I mean, especially when you have that Police Chief McSween coming out over at York Regional saying, well, you're not supposed to defend yourself. Others have said the same thing. Our Attorney General come out, say, this isn't the Wild West. You're not allowed to defend yourself. Prime Minister Blackface said it years ago. We don't defend ourselves here. We just give in. If somebody wants to rip us off, we just, invite them to do so, leave the car keys in a handy place so that they can steal it. And so as a result of that, now, I mean, I've suggested, partially with my tongue in cheek, but, what's the point of calling 911 if when the police show up, first of all, it's going to be too late to do anything because the criminals will be long gone by that point. But then if you did fight back and were successful, you're going to be the one who's charged. So I'm thinking, if the cops show up, I'm not going to be that eager to tell them anything. I'm going to say, I want a lawyer. I know why you're here. And you're not going to focus your attention on the criminals. You're going to focus your attention on me, the victim, as I was protecting my family. So why should I talk to police? You know what I'm saying? Don't you think that will engender a kind of mistrust as far as people see their own police force goes?
No, absolutely it will. It's called failing institutions, failing trust in the institutions of certain police. Anyway, look, I know some cops that I absolutely, when I have a problem, I know the ones I want to be there. I know the ones I want looking after it if I have a problem for a loved one. They are good. They know what it takes to get the job done, and they'll get the job done for the right reasons. I also know that you've got a series of police chiefs and leaders now and policies that are going the opposite way. And, I hope that the police association starts speaking up because the poor coppers in uniform can't do it. They have to sit there and shut up and do what they're told, even though they're doing what they're told is ridiculous. I see over in the UK now, there was a guy called somebody a Muppet. He said to the guy, you're a Muppet. And the police came over and they arrested him because he said something that had caused emotional harm to a person. I'm like, at that point, I'm not sure what your job is anymore. I'm not sure what you're doing. But I guess some people want the job and want the paycheck, and they will follow orders. But if you do not have a civil society where you can have trust, you can't have an economy when you don't have trust and you don't have security. The economy falters when that happens. And so it's all going in the wrong direction. And look, Mark Carney the other day stood on his soapbox. He needs one because he's so short. And he said that he's going to start, I'm going to help with crime and the bail conditions and this. And it was only a few years ago, the Liberals introduced Bill C-75, which reduced penalties, mandatory minimums for the most heinous of crimes, for drugs, for guns, for violence, for human trafficking. They reduced the sentences. So it makes me a little sick when they try to act like they're the firefighter when they're the arsonist.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the only reason you would do that is if you were trying to encourage more crime, more criminal activity. Same with the bail provisions now. The only reason you would want to turn that into a revolving door with violent criminals ending up back on the street the same day, the only reason you do that is because you want more crime. Does that not make sense? I mean, it's crazy to think about. Go ahead.
No, I talked to cops in downtown Toronto, and they're absolutely, many of them are demoralized because all they do is they arrest people and then they get back out. And there's 10 more of the ones they just arrested back out. They feel like it makes no difference. As a result, they show up to just do their job. And you don't want a cop who just does his job. You want a cop who takes pride in the uniform, pride in the job, pride in the community, and loves the king. There to do the job. But that's what's thing for a lot of the coppers, because they're not getting the backup, and the politicians are allowing it to happen. They're allowing it.
How do people access your content online? Where do they go?
They can catch me over on my YouTube channel at McLean Chronicles. And I'm going to be putting up a video about another police shooting that just took place down in the States to talk about, was it a good one or was it a bad one? And I'll give my opinion there. And to your point, Mark, I think I'm going to start doing some videos on personal protection for people sometime in the future soon. So thanks for having me on to have my piece said on this, Mark.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. You're a terrific guest, and we appreciate that. We appreciate your expertise on this stuff. All right. Ross McLean. Let's take a minute now for a break, and then we'll be back with more Hour 2 of the Marc Patrone Show coming up right after that.